Big shout out to the Will of Dreams, longtime subscriber, commenter, and moderator on my Discord, The Digital Burrow, because they brought something to my attention that could be very profound. So a little while ago, I made a video talking about how I think the Marine symbol could just be another symbol of control by Emu in their grimoire. And when push comes to shove, they can control every Marine bearing this symbol. Now, with that being said, based on what the Will of Dreams has brought to us today, that could be the situation, because he is suggesting that all these symbols that Emu has been putting forth on various people in the Holy Knights, or those hoping to be Holy Knights, come from something called the hieroglyphic monad. Now, the hieroglyphic monad was devised by a man named John Dee, who lived in the real world from 1527 to 1608, and he was a notable court advisor to Queen Elizabeth I of England. Public opinion is kind of dodgy on him, but he was many things. He was a scholar, a philosopher, some call him an occultist, etc., etc. But he devised a symbol that is basically the unification of all of creation. And that's putting it very, very bluntly. I could do several videos on this alone, but I want to keep things to the point. So the hieroglyphic monad is a symbol that represents all of creation, basically. Now, with that being said, the symbol is made up of several parts. And if you combine these parts in some particular ways, you start to get some very familiar symbols that we see in One Piece. So let's go through a few of them right now. Now, mind you, this is very truncated, but just like in One Piece, this symbol can be broken down to mean several things, as it shows in this diagram. So these combinations of shapes on the side of this diagram are quite interesting, because you have one for Mercury, one for Venus, one for Jupiter, one for Saturn, and one for Mars. It is not lost on me that these are also the names of the 5 elders, which makes a lot of sense because they are the first characters in the series, most likely, that have something called an abyssal covenant, which probably looks like a combination of shapes from the monad. So if you look at the monad as well, we also have a piece that means the moon, a piece that means the sun, a piece that represents the elements, and the piece that represents Aries. So if you look at the moon piece, which is also representing silver, that most likely is representing Thorgilin Garling, because if you don't know, Thorgilin Garling from the side looks like a crescent moon. And he could also represent the sun, or gold, because when his beard and hair get too long, they fuse together and make a full circle. So on top of that, in his youth, we know that he was blonde, so gold, you could say. And in his later years as a 5 Elders member now, he is silver haired. So it all works out quite oddly in that way. But to continue, he may or may not be more important than we think. But when you look at the various covenants of One Piece, at least the ones that we know, when you look at, say, the Shallows Covenant, the Shallows Covenant is simply a circle with a cross through it. So the gold or sun symbol crossed by the element symbol. But then when you get to the Depths Covenant, the covenant of the Holy Knights that allows Emu to control and communicate with those who have it, that is the sun or gold symbol with the element symbol, in addition with a weird fusion of the moon and silver symbol with the curves of the Aries symbol. So that in itself is quite interesting. Now, when it comes to the Abyssal Covenant, the covenant that the 5 elders have most likely, I wonder, seeing as how all the elements presumably are in the Depths Covenant, are we going to see each Elders member get their own specific version of the Abyssal Covenant? Because seeing as how such a small pool of individuals have this, presumably, maybe they're customized per individual. I'm not too sure. However, when you look at the Marine symbol, things get kind of interesting because their symbol 1 is used for mass propaganda with the whole Sora Warrior of the Sea comic, in which Sora himself has a pet seagull that sits atop his head that looks like the Marine symbol. But also their symbol is just the Aries combined with 2 opposing moons and a line from the element symbol, if this is to hold up. So, now what's so insidious about the Aries symbol being used in the context of the Marines is that though people the world over see it as a seagull, meaning freedom and protection perhaps, but in actuality it could be the symbol of a ram, as the animal who symbolizes Aries is the ram. Now, there is a ram-headed demon that we'll talk about in another video that Emu may or may not have the devil fruit of. But with that being said, what's so insidious about this further is that Sengoku, when he was working as the fleet admiral, wore a Marine baseball cap with a seagull ornament atop it, being a representation of strength and the symbol of the Marines to all under him, correct? What is so odd about this is that Sengoku often was accompanied by a goat. Now, a goat is not a ram. A goat and a ram are different animals, but they do belong to the same family. So you could say with him having a pet goat, and him being the living symbol of the Marines at a time, the lie was walking with the truth in that way. The lie of upholding justice was walking with the truth of them just being the right hand of the devil that watches over the world. But keeping all that in mind and keeping that the goat might be the representation of Aries, which relates back to the whole body of Monad, look at volume 25. Of course, we have Blackbeard, Shanks, Buggy, and Luffy on the cover with the goat and the miner. I don't think the miner matters, but the goat is eating. This is a counterpart to volume 105, in which all of these characters now are Yonko, but the goat has been replaced by Carrot, who is also eating. Now, with the goat representing Aries, you know what Carrot symbolizes? She still symbolizes the Marines in a very odd way, but in her being a mink and her having a relationship to the moon, she represents the moon symbol. The moon symbol that makes up the other bit of the Marine symbol. And I think that's wild because she has these 2 ears that you could see as being a part of the Marine symbol to the seagull or Aries mark that the goat is in volume cover 25. And that is very interesting. So if you've enjoyed this video, please gaze upon the like button. It's very much appreciated. Gaze upon the sub button if you really like the video, and ring that bell so you never miss another Paula P Works video. And if you can find it, please click the hype button. It's very much appreciated. But with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Paula P Works.